And I want to share a simple point, but I think it's relevant to the current events. It's something that we've talked about many times before, but it's for the point of inspiration and encouragement. I think it's worth reviewing again or saying it in a different way. So the Torah says in this week's Pasha, the Torah says in Pasha's Devarim, it says, chapter 2, verse number 9, Vayomer Hashem Elai. Moshe Rabbeinu was talking and he says that Hashem said to me, Al Totzar as Moav. So the Jewish people were traveling to Eretz Israel. They were traveling to conquer the land of Israel, and they were going to pass some different countries, different governments. One of them was the Moav, was the nation of Moav. So Hashem instructed Moshe that Al Totzeres Moav, do not do anything with Moav. Al Tizgar Bam Melchama, do not have war with them. Ki lo etin lecha mi'artzo, you do not. I will not give you from his land. Yerusha as an inheritance. Ki lein not nasati es ar Yerusha, because I give it to the children of Lot. So you're not allowed to make a war with these people. You're not allowed to take their land with Moav, because that is set aside for somebody else. It's not for you. It's for Lot, the descendants of Lot. Later on in Pasuk, later on the Torah says regarding Ammon, also another nation that they were going to pass. It says in Pasuk Yutes 19, it says, same chapter, you will come to the borders of Ammon, you cannot do anything with them either. Do not make with them a war either. Because I will not give you the land of Ammon also for an inheritance. Lot nasatiha Yerusha. It is to also the children of Lot as given as an inheritance. What the Torah says in this week's Parsha. The Gemara in Baba Kama explains, and it's quoted in the Rashi in this week's Parsha. But the Gemara in Baba Kama explains on page 38b, Lamed Chesem Beis. The Gemara explains why the Torah prohibits taking of this land and why this land was a Yerusha, why it was an inheritance to the children of Lot. So the Gemara says like this. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mechaperes char kol beria. Hashem does not deny reward for every creature. Meaning that no matter how minuscule, no matter how small, no matter how slight a person's behavior is, that is for the good, Hashem does not deny the reward for that behavior. We may think that for some gesture or even a wink of an eye, it's too small for Hashem to pay attention to. No, Hashem pays attention to every single action that we do that is for the good, and He gives us reward for it. And what's the example? Even if a person chooses to speak nicely, a person has an option to speak not so nice, to be vulgar, and a person decides not to be vulgar, for that Hashem gives them reward. And what's the example of this? So the Gemara says the example is the two psukim that we just read in our Pasha. The example is in our Pasha. The ilu bechira. So now these nations of Moav and Ammon come from the incest that Noah had with his two daughters. If you remember, they thought that the world was coming to an end, and so they had relations with him, and they had children from that relationship. So there was an older daughter and a younger daughter, obviously. So the older daughter, the Ilu Bechira da Ka'amra Moav, she named her son Moav, which is the name of the nationhood, the offspring of her son. She named her son Moav. And what does Moav mean? What does the word Moav mean? So Rashi says, Lashon Pritzus. It is a vulgar language. The word moyav is vulgar. Shehu me'avia. The word moyav means from my father, meaning the very naming of her son was named from my father, meaning that my father is the father of this son. So in the name, it says that she committed incest. It's his name is emblematic of the incest that his mother participated in. So this is a vulgar language that she used. So for that, the Torah in this week's Pasha from Moav instructs Moshe, Al totaras Moav al tisgar bo milchama, do not do anything to Moav and do not make a war with them. So the Gemara says, an inference, do not make a war with them, milchama hu delo, ha'angaria ovid. But you can't make war, but you can make them into slaves. You could take them into captivity and you can make them work for you. Because it only says that you're not allowed to make war. Everything else below war, which is taking them into captivity, that you're allowed to do. Because why? Why are you allowed to take them into captivity? You're allowed to take them into captivity because she was not careful in the way she spoke. She named her son Moya, from my father, quote unquote, from my father. And because of that, for the future, yes, they are the descendants of Lot, and therefore the Jewish people can't take the land, but the Jewish people can enslave them and to put them into captivity because she was vulgar in her language. It's a punishment of sorts because she chose to name her son in such a vulgar way, in such a pritzesdika way. That is Moyav. Tzeira, but the younger daughter, what did she name her child? The Ka'amra ben Ami. So, what's the name of the nation that came out of the descendants of her child from sorry, it wasn't Noach, it was Lot, from their father Lot. What is the name of what are the names of these descendants? The names of these descendants are Bnei Ammon. They are the children. Bnei Ammon means the children of Ammon. What does that mean? She named her son Ben Ami. She named her son the son of my nation. Meaning it doesn't say directly that the son was as a result of incest with her father. It hints to it because it says the son of my nation, but it doesn't say directly like her sister named her son. And this is a modesty. This is a little bit less vulgar language to use in naming one's son. And because of that, says our pasuk in this week's Pasha, Hashem said to Moshe, when you come to the children of Ammon, when you come to this nation, do not pain them and do not make them at all, anything to them. You cannot even put them in captivity. So the Gemara in Baba Kama says that the difference between the vulgar language that was used by the older sister and the vulgar language that and the nicer language that was used by the younger sister was whether their offspring was going to be enslaved by the Jewish people. The younger sister was rewarded for the fact that she chose to be modest and not to identify in the naming of her child, that it was as a result of incest. She was rewarded for this in that her children were protected from captivity. So you see, Reb Chia bar Abba tells us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem does not take away the reward from any creation, from anybody, from any creature that he has created, even if they choose to speak in a nice language as opposed to a vulgar language. That's what the Gemara, Rashi quotes the Gemara in Baba Kama. That's what we see from this week's Pasha. So the Gemara says this in many places in Shas, that it's imperative that a person choose to speak in a proper way, in a becoming way, in a respectful way, and not be vulgar with their language. Another example is the Gemara in Ksubis on page 8b. The Gemara says in Ksubis on page 8b, the Gemara says like this: Rab Chanan bar Rav. Rab Chanan said in the name of Rav, everybody, when they attend the wedding, everybody knows why the kala goes to the chuppah. Everybody knows why the bride gets married, right? And just for the sake of learning, we know that there's going to be a relations between the bride and the groom after the wedding is over, and that's why she goes into the chuppah. So she should be able to have, as the Gemara tells us in Kiddushin, that once there's a marriage is consummated, then a woman is prohibited to the rest of the world, but she's permissible to her husband. She's permissible to her husband to have relations with him. So everybody knows why the kala goes into the chuppah. Everybody knows this. But, says the Gemara, everybody knows, somebody who makes his mouth disgusting and says something that's vulgar, even if there is a decree for them that they should have 70 years of good life, that decree gets torn up. Nepach alav l'rai gets switched into something that's going to chas v'sholem be the opposite, be bad. So everybody knows why the kala goes into the chuppah. But it says again the Gemara, just like in Baba Kama, that one should not speak it with their language. One should not be vulgar about it. One should not speak of what's going to happen between the private moments between the bride and the groom after the wedding. So this is what the Gemara says in Ksubis. The Gemara also accentuates this point in Psachim. The Gemara in Psachim on page 3a, the Gemara there tells us the following. Also in a different context, but the Gemara is like this. The Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, a person should always speak nicely, should not let something that be vulgar come out of their mouth. And how do we know this? Because Shinemar, as it says in the pasuk, it says Mina behema hatehora, that he will take from the animals that are tahar, that are kosher. Umina behema asher ineno tahar, and he also take from the animals that are not tahar, that are not pure. So says the Gemara. I skipped a line in the Gemara. The Gemara says here that I'm not going to read it, but we'll just say the Gemara here says that it's very funny that the Torah said, take from the tahar animal, the pure animal, and nano tahar, and take from the not pure animal. It should just say he took from the pure animal, the tahar animal, and he took from the tamei animal. He took from the animal that's not pure, but instead it says not pure, right? It should have said impure animal. Instead it says not pure. So the Gemara says that the Torah decided, as Rashi here explains in the Gemara, the Torah decided to use extra language not to say the word tamei, not to say the word impure. How many letters is the difference? So, eneno tahora means not pure is 13 letters, and tamei is 5, hatmeya is 5 letters, as Rashi explains. 5 minus 13 is 8. So the Torah used 8 extra letters to teach us a lesson, that a person should not say something that's vulgar, because the Torah decided not to say tamei. Instead, the Torah said tahar. The Torah decided not to say hatmeya, which means impure. Instead, the Torah says enana tahara. It's not pure. So Rashi says, even though the Torah does say many places the word tamei, it does say impure many places, but here it decided to change the regular expression of the Torah, the regular language, to teach us a lesson. That when we have the opportunity to be vulgar, we should choose not to be vulgar. We should always choose to speak in a nice, respectful way. So here we have three examples. We have the Gemara in Baba Kama, as we said, that analyzes our parsha. 38b. We have the Gemara in Ksubis on page 8b, which talks about the bride and the groom. And we have the Gemara in Psachim on page 3a that talks about, if I'm not mistaken, the animals that Noach took into the table. And all of them are teaching the same lesson. And that lesson is that we should choose to speak in a respectful manner. We should choose to speak in a proper way, as opposed to being vulgar. So I was thinking, so this very simple question, I was just thinking for this evening's lesson class, I don't know if I'll have, for this evening's class, I was thinking that why does a person have to be, why does a person have to act in a dignified manner? Why is it that it's necessary to be respectful and not vulgar, to speak properly? Why is that so important? So perhaps maybe we could suggest the following. We could say there is a Meshech Chochma, Rabbi Meir Simcha of Vinsk, and not interested in his, this evening, not interested specifically in the insight that he says, but he has an insight in Parshas Bo. He has an insight in Parshas Bo where he talks about at length, it's in chapter 12, verse number 16, he talks about at length that we don't, as Jews, we don't celebrate victory over our enemies. We're not happy and overjoyed with destruction of others, with the embarrassment of others, with the annihilation of others, even if they're evil. It's not something that we celebrate. It's not something that we rejoice in. It's not something that we make a party about. And the Meshech Chochma explains, why is that the case? He says like this, and this is the language that's interesting for our lesson this evening, is the Meshech Chochma says, Harei the Adam Hamayla. A Adam Hamayla. Let's translate that into, we need somebody to translate this into English, but Adam Hamayla literally translated means a person of height, of height, which is a person of stature, a high person, a dignified person. Adam Hamayla einenu sameach binpol ayavai. He does not rejoice when his enemy falls. Why not? Mishum simcha ra be'einei Hashem. Why is that the case? Because the simcha, this rejoicing, is evil in the eyes of Hashem, as it says in Mishlei, chapter 24, verse 17. Bimpol yivcha al tismach. When your enemy falls, do not rejoice. Pen yira Hashem, whether Hashem will see v'ra be'einav, and it will be evil in his eyes. So you see that's Hashem does not like when people fall. He does not like destruction. He does not, even if it's an enemy. So a person of stature, a person of dignity, will not rejoice in something that Hashem hates. Hello, Rabbe, Ine Hashem Tzorach L'sanoso. Isn't it something which is evil in the eyes of Hashem, a person should hate? And since it's evil in the eyes of Hashem to rejoice over the downfall of the enemies, of people, even if they're evil, so too a person has to hate that also. So therefore, if a person is of stature, of dignity, holds himself to be in the proper position, then they will not rejoice in victory, in the annihilation of their enemy. And therefore he explains, the Meshech Chochma there explains all of our Yom Tovim. He says that Pesach, the Shvi Shel Pesach, the seventh day of Pesach, we don't celebrate the fact that the Egyptians drowned. Purim, he explains, which is not for us to get into, he says Purim is not a celebration of the destruction of Haman. Chanukah, we don't focus on the war, we focus on the miracle, etc. This is the piece there, very interesting, we discussed it in the past, that the Meshech Chochma says. So if we would transpose the idea of what he calls the Adam Hamayla, a person of stature, a person of dignity, there is such a thing. And what is a person of dignity defined as? A person of dignity is defined as one who does the things that Hashem likes and despises the things that Hashem hates. And therefore, perhaps maybe we can suggest that vulgarity, being vulgar, being pretesdick, not speaking in the proper way, is unbecoming. It's not of an Adam Hamayla. It's not of a person of stature. Why? Because Hashem doesn't like that either. We see that from the Torah, that Hashem does not like that either. Hashem doesn't want to say the word Tameh. Hashem doesn't want us to say, Hashem rewarded the younger daughter of Lot for choosing to speak a nice language. It's because Hashem likes and holds it to be of import that speaking properly is good. Therefore, an Adam HaMayla, a person of stature, will do that which is good in the eyes of Hashem. And evil in the eyes of Hashem he will not do, or she will not do. And therefore, that's why it's important to a person to be dignified. That's why it's important for a person to and the dignity comes from doing what Hashem wants. Now, what is it that Hashem wants from us? Many things. But one of the things he wants from us is the recognition of the fact that we are special, the fact that we are dignified. As the Gemara says in Tractate Sanhedrin, page 37a, the Gemara says there, Chayiv Adam, Loima, a person, if this is not maybe the exact language, a person is obligated to say, Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam, that the universe was created because of me. A person is obligated to say that the whole universe, with all the galaxies and all the different stars and the planetary structures and the space and planet Earth, was all created for me. It's all in my hands. These are all tools to be given to me. There's a tremendous confidence that Hashem has in us of our capacity, that he gave us, that he could have given us the entire world. That would be just for one individual, like the Alter of Slobodka in his Oratz often says that it's possible in the beginning of the Sefer, but this is the theme of the whole Sefer. It's possible that if there would be nobody else on this planet, then everything that the planet has to offer would be able to be, and each one of us would be able to handle it, would be able to use it, would be able to properly fashion from it what God intended us. We have tremendous physical and spiritual power. A person is obligated to say, Bishvili Nivra Olam. A person is obligated to hold themselves in a dignified manner and act in a proper way, even if it doesn't help. Came across a book by Primo Levi. The book by Primo Levi is it's called just one second. The book is called Survival in Auschwitz. Primo Levi is a scientist, and he was in Auschwitz. He was deported to Auschwitz, to a labor camp, and he talks about in the beginning of the book about how the cleanliness in the camp obviously was not non-existent, pretty much. I mean, the water was dirty, the clothes were dirty. There was no Purell there. Nobody was worried about the COVID-19. That's for sure not. Nobody was worried about the flu or SARS or the Ebola or malaria, whatever it was. Nobody was worried about that. That was not something that anybody can do anything about. So it was in Hashem's hands, in God's hands. Whatever happens, happens. So he says that eventually he gave up on washing himself in the dirty water and having some measure of cleanliness in his bunker in the camp that he was in, because it was just useless. There was no point. I mean, it's just the cleaning oneself was not something that one did. However, one of the people in the camp, he said there was an ex-sergeant in the camp. His name was Steinloff, and he was in the Austro-Hungarian army. He had an Iron Cross in the War of 14 to 18. Cross of the 1418 war, and he saw that this man did not stop washing himself, even with the dirty water, tidying himself and making sure that he was clean, even though he wasn't really clean, but he made sure that he was clean, or he attempted to make himself clean at least, even though the cleanliness was non-existent. So he asked him, or I don't know if he asked him or if he told him that he told them this fellow, this ex-sergeant told Primo Levi, he said that he has to continue doing this. And he said to him, why? Why should I continue washing myself when it's completely useless? So this is what he told him. And I'll read you from the book. I think it's page 31, at least in my version. It says like this. He said to him like this, or approximately said to him like this, that precisely because the lager was a great machine to reduce us to beasts. What was Hitler's intent in creating such conditions? No food, no cleanliness, dirt, disease, to reduce people to animals, to take away their humanity. This is what the sergeant told them. That precisely because the lager was a great machine to reduce us to beasts, we must not become beasts. The way to fight Hitler is not to allow him to make us into animals, that even in this place one can survive, and that therefore one must want to survive, to tell the story, to bear witness, and that to survive we must force ourselves to save at least the skeleton, the scaffolding, the form of civilization. If a person strives, the ex-sergeant was saying, to survive, if you want to show that you want to survive, then you got to do the things that will make you survive. Or at least that when you survive, you have to have the attitude that you will survive. Therefore, we must force ourselves. He says, we are slaves, deprived of every right, exposed to every insult, condemned to certain death, but we still possess one power, and we must defend it with all our strength. For it is the last, the power to refuse our consent. As soon as we stop washing ourselves, then we deprive ourselves of the power that Hitler cannot take away, and that is the power to refuse our consent. I do not want to be an animal. I do not want to be a beast. You will not take away my humanity. So even though he said to him, I wash myself, and I'm not clean, it doesn't matter, because the very washing of myself keeps me civilized. It ensures that it doesn't take away my dignity. It doesn't take away my humanity. Because Hitler can make me into a slave. He can take away everything from me, but there's one thing that he cannot take away. And that is, he cannot take away my power of refusal to consent to make me into an animal. And the way that I do that is by washing myself every day. And so this is the lesson that he is teaching. He taught Primo Levi that it's important to conduct ourselves in a dignified manner. Why? Because that's what makes us into who we are. That's what makes us into people who want to be the ones through whom the world was meant to be, that the universe was created for, that the Gemara says in Sanhedrin. And therefore the person, Hashem wants that type of person should not be rejoicing when the enemies are killed. That type of person should not be vulgar in their language. It's important to conduct ourselves in a dignified manner because that keeps us civilized, that keeps us human, and that also keeps us the individuals that we are. So the title of our class is that, what was the title of our class? The title of our class was that dignity thwarts racism. Dignity thwarts racism. Why? Because what is racism? Racism is that a person discriminates against another person solely based upon their race because of the color of their skin. And this is obviously a contemporary issue. And we're going to keep it general, but it's still a contemporary issue, which is a very hot topic today in society, of racism. Who is the real racist? Who is not the racist? The general definition of racism is that a person is discriminated against or taken advantage of, or even chas v'shalom killed, like Hitler did, based upon their race, not based upon their individuality, not based upon who they are. But if a person conducts themselves with dignity, they understand that they are the creation of Hashem, like we discussed before, that they are made, as the Torah says, B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of Hashem. And therefore they have to carry themselves in a dignified manner as a person that the world was created for. And they carry themselves in a dignified manner, that they speak properly, and they don't rejoice in the downfall of humanity, destruction of people, even if they decided that those people are evil. Then that person is an individual. Doesn't matter who they are. And of course, that thwarts racism because there's no place for it. There's no place to view other humans as behaving in a certain way based upon their race, the color of their skin. There's no place for that in the Torah. The Torah treats each individual person as a dignified person who acts in the way that what Hashem approves of and desists from acting in the way that Hashem does not approve of. There's no place to look at a human in any other way. This is the point that we wanted to make tonight. So therefore, it's important for us to view ourselves in a dignified manner and act accordingly with action. To brush our teeth. Yes, to speak in a proper way. Yes, to be sad. The fact that that there are people in the world who need to be who need to be dealt with, eradicated, taken away, because that's not the way it's supposed to be, and that's not the way the world is meant to be. It's not for us to become that way, because Hashem created everything for a purpose, and when something does not serve its purpose, including humans, even though it needs to be eradicated, that's not a happy moment. That's a sad moment that they did not fulfill their potential. So, so hopefully we can, in our own lives, each and every one of us, know where we perhaps maybe fall short a little bit of conducting ourselves in a dignified manner. Perhaps maybe it's in the way that we speak with our colleagues at work, maybe our children, maybe our spouses. Perhaps maybe it's in the way that we look at the world, in how we look at people who are not fulfilling their potential, people who are evil, how we look at ourselves. Do we look ourselves as dignified people because of our individuality, because of who we are? Or do we look at ourselves as part of not distinct from some group or whatever. How we conduct ourselves. So perhaps maybe we can improve in those ways. That is the way that the Torah's perspective on individuality, dignity, and humanity and ourselves. So that's the message. So in Mitzvah Hashem, we should take these lessons, act properly, and the Beis Hamikdash, since Tisha B'Av is coming, we should give a bracha that the Beis Hamikdash should be built before Tisha B'Av comes next week. Okay, and have a good Shabbos. Any questions?
Thank you, Rabbi. Good Shabbos.
Okay, thank you. Good Shabbos.
Thank you.
Thanks.